Do you guys remember a couple years back when there was a Cuphead tutorial where the reviewer couldn't make it past that one simple jump? Over and over again, he kept trying in different ways, but he just kept hitting that wall. I bring this up because that experience, that's Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. You're attempting over and over again to jump over that wall, or in this case, just try to complete a certain mission or task without trying to save. And when you make it over that jump, great, but most likely you're gonna be doing that over and over again very quickly because of the bugs, weird mission design, and some just truly rough game mechanics that I feel just wasn't played out, or at least wasn't managed in the final product. So let's break this down. Terminator Dark Fate Defiance, I'm just going to say Defiance from now on, is an RTS with a persistent army focus. From the second tutorial onward, your units are ones that can permanently die, forcing the player to make every man count. On paper, truly, this is an amazing idea, as seen in other strategy games such as End War XCOM. Personally, if you can get a game that is similar to End War for me, you already sold me. You already have my money. I love End War so very much. This game has an army that you can name, that ranks up, get upgrades, and most importantly, one that you care about because you're putting all this time and investing all these resources into it. That concept fits the world of Terminator, as it's a world of scrap and debris and an apocalyptic setting with an ever-growing machine army trying to kill every last human that it deems a threat. The thing is, the game ruins this mechanic in a number of frustrating ways. The first critical mistake is that there is no way to reinforce your men outside of very specific one-time uses in mission. True, you can reinforce your men between missions, but in missions, when your man goes down to a single model, good luck. He's essentially combat ineffective for the rest of the mission. Now, this could be countered by balanced unit movement and mechanics that work to preserve the units, but Defiance is not that polished or optimized for that level of play. This issue multiplies as the number of units rise very quickly through the opening set of missions to where they have incredibly large battles and the player having so many units that you have to not only manage their movement and of course survivability, but you also have to manage what they have. Tanks out of gas? Guess what? You need a fuel truck. Your men's out of ammunition? Get a supply truck. Enemies hit your men in the open? Game over. While cover in buildings can be very good, units won't rotate unless you pull men out. Meaning if there's a tank shooting the men on the left side of the building, well, the tank has to kill all the men on the left side of the building before the men with the RPG will walk over, if they're one of the lucky models to move over, to actually shoot that tank. Cover out of buildings isn't as well defined. In code, there's an icon, at least giving the player some idea. Here, you're out in the open and you can duck for cover, sure, but that's it. Smoke can help, but again, for a game that cares so much about preserving units, it provides the player with little ability to know how to do that effectively without cheese. That cheese comes in the form of saving every minute and reloading when things don't go your way, which happens a lot. I was playing on medium difficulty and things went wrong numerous times in just the first couple missions, not to mention the middle of the game, which became an utter nightmare to try to get through certain situations. I ran into multiple bugs that ended the game for me, not giving me proper rewards, skipping dialogue, or making me lose control of my units. One time I was going through and a unit vital to the mission, because it's the only unit I had, became incorporated as an ally in the map. So I could not control them, and when they died because I couldn't move them, I lost the mission. There are other times where the game will just take away control of your units and just have them fight. And it's complete RNG if they are going to survive or not and how well they do. I remember in an interview with the devs behind XCOM explaining they had to be careful to not kill players' units when the player is not actively controlling them, as the player would typically not feel rewarding and feel like the game was out to get their units, which is why in a lot of XCOM games, they make the player make a choice, and that choice will end up, potentially costing the player the unit, rather than the game taking away the units of the player without the player even having any say. I say this as Defiance has my army spawn outside of a base that's just completely covered by men, so immediately they become under fire and under artillery fire, and most of them die. I don't have any control over where they spawn or their placement. They just start dying. And again, for an army that you're trying to preserve and an army that you're building up, to see them just all slaughtered because the game decides to spawn them is incredibly frustrating. Even more frustrating design is having neutral factions that even if a bullet whizzes by their head, congratulations soldier, they are now the enemy and they are going to gun you down. Which may not seem so bad for a single mission, but again, choices matter in this game. So if you anger or do something wrong, you could pay for it mission after mission after mission. There's 12 missions total, with I would say about 3/4 of them having larger scale battles and more in-depth mission design. But again, that mission design, while some of it can be great and interesting, other times it can be confusing and just frustrating. Especially as, unlike games like maybe Ruse, where you have a lot of missions and you're slowly building up your awareness, how to control units, and getting more and more comfortable with a bigger army, here they just throw it at you. And again, I feel like that escalation is a little unwarranted. I don't mind starting bigger sooner, but I do feel like just giving me a whole army without really me able to control or properly control them or figure out how that sort of army would operate before just giving me 2 or 3 times the size of an army that I was used to in earlier missions is absolutely too much too fast. Again, I was on medium difficulty, so about maybe an hour a mission, but again, on higher difficulties, good luck if it's not going to be a couple hours. For me, the last mission I played was an hour before I entered a serious combat encounter. And from there, it took me another hour to play through before I just kept having to save scum over and over before I'm like, this isn't fun, and I had to step away. So if gameplay's not great, maybe the presentation or story can save it? Maybe not. Story-wise, there's not much to write home about. The first mission has a cop taking over command of what's left of the US military, and it's played straight. As ridiculous as this and many other scenes are, the game really wants you to take it seriously as it covers some heavier themes. To me, I don't mind, but I could see the tonal shift here really not working for others. Essentially, you're resistance fighters trying to regroup after losing your base, working with and against other human factions to continue your war against machines. The characters are fine, they're bog standard. I'm not going to say they're bad, they're just fine. You can make decisions that can alter the story, but to me, there seems to be one way to get all the best stuff. Again, the best stuff will help you on further missions, so most likely you're going to do that. Why would you help the guy that has in a field a bunch of random equipment that could be useful in the next mission when you could attack another guy and maybe get something? That's very unclear. So the game pushes you to do a certain path, or it doesn't tell you anything and you could be left scratching your head as why certain people are acting the way they did because you're jumping or cutting through the story without you even knowing about it. Presentation-wise, it's okay if this was a cheaper game. This is a $40 game and there's very little cutscenes, and the game relies a lot on talking heads, which is good for Starship Troopers, which really helps sell the player before every mission. Here, there's none of that, and when it does try to have a little bit more cinematic flair, it doesn't look great. Compare these cutscenes to Aliens Dark Descent, another sort of RTS that I loved from the previous year, and yeah, it's night and day. In-game, I think the game looks fine. To me, Terminator doesn't have a truly distinct visual aesthetic due to how many different versions of the future we have seen across so many films. Again, this is Terminator Dark Fate Defiance, we're not dealing with Skynet, we're dealing with Legions. There's a lot of things here that kind of goes back and forth with canon and what's not canon and how everything's supposed to look. It mostly nails the apocalyptic feeling, textures look good on the machines, and battles can pack a punch with great visual aesthetics, especially with the laser weapons. I love the purple shots, but people, oh my god, some of the people are really low rendered, and it doesn't match what's supposed to be representing on the screen. One character will look one way, and then you look at their profile and it looks completely different. Well, okay, what about multiplayer? Because yes, this game does have multiplayer, but you're not gonna find much. What it does offer is a couple conquest maps and one assault map that's pretty much pulled from the campaign, with both factions being available to play. But the problem is, it's very restricted, and the lack of content here, especially with maps and different modes on them, are really going to kill it. I know a lot of people made fun of Co 3 for the lack of maps, but this is just ridiculous. I just don't see an active fan base growing from this game's multiplayer unless they just very quickly jumpstart it and add a bunch of multiplayer additions to try to keep the fan base here. But truly, this game is sold on its single player, and as I just described, that single player is not exactly on the best terms. Defiance is a $40 game that needed more time in the oven and an overhaul of its core mechanics. It has some good ideas, and I'm glad the devs really went for it, because they are different from a lot of RTSs right now, but that doesn't mean it's good. If you like brutal RTSs, maybe try this on a deep discount, but I think you will have a lot more fun with Slitherine's other games, such as Starship Troopers, which I adore. I think it nails the gameplay, the presentation, the aesthetic, the story, everything. Where this game, I think, fails in a lot of ways. But hey, if you want to play Defiance and run at that wall, I'm not going to stop you. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And again, thank you to Slitherine for actually providing me a code. I'm sorry I wasn't the biggest fan of this. Again, bit of a miss on this one, but what can I say? You definitely swung for the fences, and I guess that's what counts. Again, if other Slitherine games like Starship Troopers, I highly recommend, and I'm super excited for Broken Arrow, so I'm really hoping that sticks the landing on launch. This has been Greyshot17, and I'll see you all next time.
Hello everyone, this is Greyshot17, and before y'all go, let me give a special shout out to Patreon supporters Joey G240, Milam, Big Cooch, Aphyria, Ace, Pyro Shark, Tonybee 95, Epic Pleb. Thank you all for your incredible support and helping me grow my channel and support my channel and everything I do. Thank you, and to the rest of you, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.